Okay, we are going to be working on emphasis and dominance this week. You are going to be creating 6 compositions. Your compositions are a 4x6 paper. So you can just kind of guesstimate, if you don't have a ruler at home, but ideally about a 4x6. You will create 6 of them. So I'm going to just demonstrate a couple ways you could create emphasis and dominance in those compositions. Now, most of the examples that I have in this packet that is in Canvas are in black and white. But I am completely open if you decide you would like to try to pop a little color in there. And these are all really good examples of student work. They're all very different from one another. Many of them have multiple focal points, so that's totally okay. You could certainly create just one, or you could do several of them. But I'm going to talk about leading lines and all that good stuff briefly with you. If you do not have things like stencils, that's totally okay. Grabbing something that will give you a clean, straight edge is really ideal. If you insinuate that line is straight, it needs to be straight. You also could certainly trace things that are round, like different dishes, or just grab things that you find around your home if you don't have a circle template. And then of course, creating a triangle is super slick and easy as long as you have something with a straight edge. When you're working, you want to make sure that you are drawing initially in pencil to just kind of sketch your plan, and then you ink it. Now, I did incorporate a thumbnail template because I think it's important to generate thumbnails. This is something that many designers do, just rough sketches of kind of a plan. And you do not have to print that out. You don't have to submit it. You could certainly just sketch 6 little boxes out, or rectangles, and just kind of get a little game plan going. But ideally, you are using either geometric or organic designs to create emphasis and dominance. And you want to do that in lots of different ways. So we're going to go through this list today and talk about different ways to do that. Okay, so the first one is leading elements. So when you have elements that repeat and lead in kind of a direction, giving you an idea that the composition keeps going this way, that's a really good way to draw the eye or create dominance or emphasis. Contrast is another one. Dark against light, rough against smooth. Visual opposites is a good way to create emphasis. Texture is another one. Now with this one, and I'm not really such a fan of this actually, I would probably rework this. But just to kind of show you different textures, you've got lots of busy texture here, and then it gets lighter and lighter and kind of loose. Again, with this one on this actual page, there's a great amount of texture here. And then, things get kind of lighter and void of detail in the other areas. The next is an anomaly. Excuse me. An anomaly is when you basically have one element that does not follow suit or changes paths. So, and there's a couple ways to do this, but one would be if you had a very basic pattern, and then all of a sudden you have one little dude that's totally off the beaten path. This is what's considered an anomaly, okay? Now, the next is scale. Scale, of course, can really draw the eyes. So this is much bigger than these. There's lots of different examples of multiple ones on this list in here, okay? They have lots of scale in this composition, and this can be a little busy. I've always had students argue, where is the focal point? There really isn't a single focal point, and that's okay. You just want to try doing 6 very different compositions. This is a good, kind of backtracking, this is a good example of texture. The stippling here, the tiny little dots, creates a sense of texture. And then they have just kind of a wiggly line here that also creates texture. Okay, let's look at the next one on the list. So that was the anomaly, where again, one is kind of not following what the others are doing. So this one stands out because he's different from everything else. Scale, of course, I just mentioned. Position and placement. You know, you don't have to always have everything that you want to stand out smack dab in the middle. It's okay to have things off-centered. So you want to try lots of different positions and placements of things. Things can run off the edge of the paper, leaving the viewer to believe that the composition is going to keep going. Change of direction. You know, when you all of a sudden have one change of direction, that tends to be more of a way to draw the eye, because this is an anomaly and it changes the direction. So in this packet, you'll see that, you know, just by changing the direction of the lines, that can really add a sense of drama in drawing the eye. Lastly, focal point. Now, you can have multiple focal points, and when you look through this packet, you'll see, and again, this is in Canvas, that, you know, there might not just be one thing that stands out. Maybe that artist tried lots of different elements. But a focal point is when you ultimately have one point, but again, you could certainly try having multiple focal points. But this is an example of where, you know, this is the focal point right up here, okay? And then they've got all this other stuff here. You know, they don't want you to forget to look around, but ideally your eye just wants to follow these leading elements to this focal point up here. Again, you'll want to work initially in pencil. That's really important. And then you can either ink with Sharpie or whatever black pen you might have at your house. This is that Papermate Flair pen. And then, of course, Sharpie works good for filling big areas. If you happen to have other black pens or markers, you know, different brand, that's totally okay. When you are done, you'll want to photograph all your work. So you'll just lay them all out and take a photo. You can certainly submit one photo for each one, or you could just lay them all out as one group and submit one photograph. That's completely okay with this one. They all should be very different. You want to try different things. So you have 3 and 3. Maybe you could do organic and geometric, or maybe you want to blend a little bit of everything. I don't know. You can kind of decide. Now, none of the examples that I have in the packet and that I've shared with you today have color, but I am totally open if you would like to try to add little pops of color in it, because that's a great way to show emphasis or dominance. And I've been thinking about that with this assignment for a while, that, you know, it probably would be fun to pop a little color in here and there. So anyway, I'm anxious to see if you add color, and you don't have to, but if you decide to, you know, I'm anxious to see how you go about doing that. Because who knows, maybe you guys could be the ones to help me kind of shift my thinking with this project. Most importantly, have fun and experiment and explore. And again, these are all just different ways to create emphasis and dominance. So try to maybe keep this list handy, and it will be helpful as you're working, just for you to be kind of cognizant of different ways to create emphasis and dominance. Your work can focus on maybe one way, 2 ways, 3 ways. Again, the sky is the limit. Many of these use several of these on this list. Again, this is just ideally how I like to teach this unit. I think these are all really important in design. And hopefully, as you look at work from here on out, whether it be a poster, a website, whatever, you'll kind of realize, wow, there's a lot of these tools that are used that many artists use on a daily basis. So good luck and have fun.